Now we have officially numerous outlets have called New Hampshire for Donald Trump. That's not the big story, however. Of course, Donald Trump won. I don't see any plausible scenario. Like, there's no reason for these primaries except Democrats are trying to look, man. I have so much disdain for these people that scream democracy while publicly stating their intention to destroy our institutions and even the concept of democratic representation, meaning we democratically elect a representative in our republic. Here's the story. Take a look at this. So there's Dave Wasserman calling it for Trump. I want to play this clip. Nuance Bro has the tweet from CNN. Democrats are voting for Nikki Haley tonight in New Hampshire. They're Biden supporters. Check this.
Nikki Haley.
And why did you vote for Nikki Haley?
It's a vote against Trump. I think it would be better to have her against Biden in the elections than it would be Trump and her.
Do you consider yourself generally independent, Republican, or Democrat?
Democrat.
So when you undeclared, you voted for Nikki Haley. If it was Nikki Haley against Joe Biden in a general election, who are you voting for?
Joe Biden.
What is the...
They outright have no scruples. They have no morals. That is like, look, I say the banality of evil a lot, but this is why I've been saying civil war, man. The process be damned to these people. Republicans keep playing this game of look how magnanimous we are. And the Democrats keep laughing and trying to knife them in the back. Here's a guy who's saying, your party's process means nothing to me. I will vote for the worst candidate imaginable, knowing Republicans will not vote for, so that when I vote for Joe Biden, I can win. What form of government would you call that? If Joe Biden wins under those circumstances, what form of government would this man call that? It's not democracy. It's not a republic. I don't know what you'd call it.
I don't either.
It's a system of governance where one faction sabotages the other to install a minority, massively unpopular candidate. Joe Biden's popular. What was his approval rating in the 30s?
It's like 33% the last time I looked. It was like extremely
This guy's
low.
a fascist.
Is it a fascist? Is it? I've been sort of weighing. Is it authoritarian? Is it totalitarian? Is
Yes.
it fascist?
It literally is.
That's exactly what it is. It's the kind of thing that people who have no faith in the system of government that they live in would do.
And no faith in Joe Biden, right? He doesn't actually think Joe Biden could match up against
Well, he
Trump.
doesn't think, yeah, that's a really
So
good point.
he's trying to say, we have to get Nikki Haley in there to help Biden out, because if it's a Biden-Trump mashup, I mean, he's not saying it, but the
Right.
subtext there is Biden will get defeated by Trump.
There are a substantial number of polls, I think, where Trump leads Biden in the general.
Yeah, multiple out there right now.
Yeah.
And it's amazing though how the left, they're so fascist all in the name of anti-fascist. And then, they're so intolerant all in the name of tolerance. It's amazing and fascinating how their minds work and what they do. And then, Tim keeps mentioning, potential civil war. And I unfortunately have to agree. I think we're headed to that direction. I hope we don't. But you got to think back. But prior to the last civil war, that's when the Democrats were removing people from the ballot. Then they removed Abraham Lincoln from the ballot leading up to the Civil War. Now they're trying to do the same thing to President Trump.
That's a misconception. The idea of ballots being publicly created and given out is a new phenomenon that did not exist at the time of the Civil War. What happened was typically the parties would create their ballots. Here are our candidates, give them out to people and say, you can basically sign it and drop in the ballot. This is who you're voting for. So it was a party line ballot. In, I believe it was 10 Democrat states, Republicans did not issue ballots because it wasn't so. There were two big reasons. One, they thought it was a waste of time and energy. You are not going to win in these slave states that opposed Abraham Lincoln.
Money.
But a big factor was that they were concerned that anyone who supported the Republican Party and the abolition of slavery in these states who was seen carrying a ballot would be shunned, at worst, beaten. Considering we were in the bleeding Kansas era, where you had people like John Brown shooting people in the face, no one's going to be seen carrying an Abraham Lincoln ballot in the southern states. So they were just not released by the party.
They just had the population so fearful partly to even do that because they were afraid of what the other Democrats would do to them if they were to support somebody who was against slavery.
Not a single vote was cast for Abraham Lincoln in the states that went on to secede. Nobody would be caught dead doing it.
Wow.
Because then you would be dead. So it's, not the same as not having, having someone removed from the ballot. But Because of that, people have misconstrued it to Democrats removed them from the ballot. Yeah, they didn't have ballots back then. They had party line ballots. So I fact checked all that, and it's I think it's actually to a certain degree more worrying as to, I think it was worse back then. The fear that people are killing each other. You had Bleeding Kansas for 7 years where people were just showing up and shooting each other. John Brown walks up to a guy, blasts him in the face, just kills him. No questions, doesn't care. That's crazy.
It is.
Where we're at now, Aaron Danielson was walking down the street. Michael Reinl walked up to him and blasted him in the chest. 2 bullets killing him. Just because.
Yep.
And so it's fascinating to me that we're in an era where these stories could absolutely begin. But, back to this stuff. Democrats are publicly admitting there are no elections. That guy going on CNN and admitting this. Other Democratic candidates saying that they've shut down our primary so we can't vote. Marianne Williamson, and I think Dean Phillips?
Dean Phillips.
Yeah,
Yep.
Dean Phillips.
Of Minnesota.
That's right.
And I got word spit with this guy. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. Marianne Williamson I like. They're saying why are we being barred from the primary? Why is this not being allowed? Because the Uniparty is in control. Their fascist zealots like that man are going to make sure there is no election. They will subvert it through every loophole imaginable so that the least popular candidate wins, all while screaming it's everybody else who's a fascist.
Well, didn't they also steal the primary from Bernie Sanders back in 2016?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just nothing they've done this before. It's who they
The thing,
are.
too, is the Democrats refused to go into New Hampshire. They tried to push them to do South Carolina instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it looked like there were going to be contenders, they launched a write-in campaign, even though Biden's not on the ballot. And, that's incredibly rude, too. That's like a definitely take your cake and eat it, too situation. And Biden has 73% of that. Phillips has 20% right now.
With
so,
how much in? I mean, I'm looking at
31%. 31%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as for this Phillips guy, he's got this video where he's complaining to the press saying, you won't cover my story. You're not asking the right questions. He's like, Biden can't win. I am trying to do this. Why won't you tell the right story? Laura Loomer shows up.
Mm-hmm.
She had showed up to a Marianne Williamson event.
Yep.
Totally respectfully saying, I agree with you. You are right. It is wrong what they're doing. They threw her out.
Yep.
So this guy wants to claim, the media, they won't cover my story. Well, now you've got someone with a massive platform who is not here to berate you, but to actually amplify your message, and you throw her out. And it's because they're like, we want to make sure we look good to the press. The press that won't actually, these people are
And then Marianne Williamson gave her a microphone to basically, and you could see Laura wasn't there to cause any issues. She was truly there as a journalist.
This is why we like Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
Marianne Williamson was like, welcome. Yes, please. There you go. Have fun. And they agreed. And Marianne Williamson was like, I thought you were going to ask me about how they're doing this, that, and just went off on them. And I'm like, good. But people like Dean Phillips, he wants to win the Democratic primary. What he really wants is for the corporate press to acknowledge him. That's what he's complaining about. Laura Loomer doesn't count. He doesn't care about her. He doesn't care about what her followers or the average person might think. He wants the New York Times to acknowledge that he's running. And he's so frustrated. I don't understand why they won't. Perhaps it's because your party is run by fascists and they are corrupt. Unsurprising. But that's what you get. And this is where we're headed right now. So, my view of this is if people have said this could be the last election. In fact, we have a book right here. Look, it's just because we have all these things just lying around. Hey, shout out to Stephen Marsh, who gets cited on this show so often, despite the fact we agree on a lot of things. He's researched and written about Civil War. He wrote a book with Andrew Yang called The Last Election. I think he's wrong, though. This isn't the last election. The last election was 2016.
Oh, you think so? You think we already saw the last legitimate election?
I think you could technically argue that the last election was 2012.
Interesting.
Agreed.
2016, Democrats claimed it was stolen and Russia stole it. And then they tried to destroy Donald Trump. False impeachments.
They claimed it was stolen for 4 years.
The whole time.
It's okay when they do it, though. It's okay when they do it.
Well, because
did we actually have an election in
Did
we actually have an election in 2016 if half the country's political forces disrupted the administration? 2020. Well, the right doesn't think that was legitimate. Did we have an election then? No. 2016 was disputed by the Democrats. 2020 is disputed by the Republicans. And right now, Democrats are actively admitting, they're actively sabotaging and admitting to sabotaging the 2024 election in every way. from the Democratic primary to the Republican primary. They are saying to our faces, they are going to burn the system to the ground. There's no election.
Well, did you see at his like pro-abortion themed rally in Virginia today, Joe Biden opened up by going, "Hello, Virginia," and hello to the real governor of Virginia, Terry McAfee.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but it's like if Trump had done that in a state where it had been a contentious election, everyone would be like, "Election denied here." And I know there are some Republicans doing that now. McAuliffe, thank you.
I was like, McAfee?
It's like when I'm writing it, I switch all the letters around. Shout out to Chris Carr for being a great editor. But there is this moment where it's sort of more brazen. It's okay when we do it, and it seems to be escalating. And this is the same rally where there were like 14 interruptions by pro-Palestine protesters there were 4 in the first 5 minutes. So there is discord all around, but there's definitely a moment, in my opinion, where people who vote Democrat are sort of looking at the party and saying, do we believe you and do we represent you? And do you actually know what we want out of you? And I think in some ways, the interesting part about Trump's candidacy is it was a reckoning of there is a huge population in this U.S. who wants certain things like border security. Mm-hmm. They want you to address the fentanyl crisis. They want you to take on certain issues that, to be fair, the Republican sort of old guard just didn't take seriously because it didn't seem to affect them.
They didn't take it seriously, and I think the American leftists didn't take it seriously. They didn't think that it's like that we have a total disconnect in, again, the nature of reality here, and we do in so many cases. You have a bunch of people in the United States saying that men are women. That's just insane. It's obviously insane. You have Joe Biden saying that the border is closed and that Congress needs to do something to act to close the border. But everyone knows full well that Congress has absolutely no power right now, right? I mean, even if Congress passed something, the Senate's not going to take it up. Joe Biden would not sign any bill that actually closed the border. It just would not happen.
Yeah, but I will say this, though. The Democrats, and I despise what they stand for, but they actually fought for what they believe in. They have shut this country down before. And, we have a bunch of, in my opinion, spineless jellyback rhinos representing us in Congress right now who are just continuing.
Can you just say that again?
Spineless jellyback rhinos. And they continue to just give them whatever they want instead of holding the line. It's like our country's being invaded right now. Who cares if we end up shutting the border down in order to secure funding for that or to close the border in some way?
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.